Hi, I'm Greg from RVHaulers. We are here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and Marc and Dawn have just gone through the process of changing their domicile, getting driver's licenses, registering their vehicles here in South Dakota, and Marc is going to take us through that process and share with us the things that he's learned and we got some extra forms that we don't normally get. They're going to share it with us. We'll try to get those scanned and published perhaps on my website, or maybe we'll publish them on Escapees. But please look down in the video description and we will have some links as to how you can get some of this material. But if you're considering changing your domicile within the United States, South Dakota has had a lot of interest with folks because of some of the tax implications, and maybe Marc will talk about that as well. But let me turn the camera around and share with you what Marc and Dawn have learned through their move to South Dakota.
So Greg, what I'll take you through is kind of the high-level approach that we follow, and there's multiple ways to get to where we are. But South Dakota, along with Texas, Montana, there's other states that are at the top of the list for full-time RVing, and everybody has to make their own decision as to which state and the state laws are appropriate for them. South Dakota for us worked well. Sioux Falls was one of the two locations of where you can have your mail service established and your address established. It's closer in the direction that we wanted to go, coming out of the southeast part of South Dakota versus Rapid City, which is the other location for this company we went with. I'm aware of a couple of companies that are well known for the mail forwarding, and that's where you have to start, is decide where you're going to establish your domicile. And for us, we went with Dakota Post, which is a new name on top of a company that's been around a long time in South Dakota doing this. And the other one that we looked at was Escapees, who also can set up a domicile address for you in South Dakota along with Texas, and I believe they do Florida as well. But one thing in common across these service companies, mail forwarding organizations, is they'll also help you with registration processes on your vehicle. How do you get your driver's license, voter's registration, those types of things. Typically they'll have someone on staff, even for a small fee. You can forward all your registration information to them, and they'll go through the process, get the tags for you, and ship those to you. In our case, we were going to be in South Dakota anyway, so we did it all ourselves. And we did that today. We left the hotel at 8 o'clock this morning. We went and got our driver's license first, which was important because that helps facilitate the registration of the vehicles. And the whole process, we were complete by 10 o'clock in the morning. So it really was a painless process. There's a lot of forms involved. Because we went with Dakota Post, I took their checklist off their websites, and we prepared our documents ahead of time. And I looked up the fee tables from the state of South Dakota, so we had our cashier's check in hand, and everything did go pretty flawless for us. So there's a little bit of due diligence you need to do, look at the checklist. For the driver's license, I'll give you kind of a run through what we had. Your passport facilitates best. If you don't have a passport, you need to have a certified copy of your birth certificate. In my case, my wife had to have her marriage license because her name has changed, of course. And then you need to have a Social Security card or a duplicate Social Security card, which was a challenge since one of us had lost our Social Security cards. But they did accept a 1099 with the name and address on it from our previous address, so that worked in place of Social Security card. You have to have your current driver's license if you have one, and then you need 2 pieces of mail, or in our case what we did is really get an affidavit from Dakota Post that says we're subscribed with them as a mail forwarding service. They put both our names on there, and that worked. And then last, you need a hotel bill for at least one night, or a campground bill with both names on it as you're going to register or get your driver's license. So, and it was $20 each, and we walked out with the driver's license in hand. And then we drove immediately to the Treasury office downtown. And the process there is a little bit more paperwork depending on the vehicles that you're registering. We did 3 vehicles, but we were finished in an hour. They do have a checklist for importation of vehicles from Canada, and Greg had done a great job preparing all the importation documents. I think our import process, Greg, when we crossed the border, was literally 10 minutes. and that's inspecting the vehicle as well. So that went flawless. So we had everything we needed. They pulled their checklist. Actually, we have a copy of their checklist now, and I'll leave that with Greg. And it's pretty straightforward. Basic. If you're transferring vehicles, you bring your title. They do have a 4% excise tax in South Dakota. It was 3% up until April this year. So, but they're still less expensive in many states. And they do have licensing fees based on weight of vehicles and category and type of vehicles.
And age.
And age. Age plays a role in that as well. So my calculations before I got here, I estimated, and I wasn't too far off. I was pretty close to being on the money with what the charges were. So
do you want to mention that had to be in a cashier's check form or cash?
yeah, it does have to be cashier's check or cash. They don't accept credit cards anymore. And again, we were prepared for that, so that wasn't an issue. Obviously, if you have a bank, it's recommended many times to establish banking in your new domicile. And we're with a national bank, so there's chains here in Sioux Falls. So if we had to go get another check, we could have gone to a local branch and done that. So all in all, yeah, we're kind of laughing and joking a little bit about the ease of getting it here, but we're coming from a larger metropolitan city, so we're used to longer lines and a lot more people. But people were friendly. It was easy, and we have our registration for the vehicles. We have our license tags in hand. We have our driver's license in hand, and the voter's registration is part of the driver's license process. So that's completed. So all in all.
How about insurance for the vehicles?
We arranged for insurance obviously ahead of time, but in South Dakota, they don't require you to supply an proof of insurance at the time of registration, which is unlike where we came from. So obviously my advice is that you have it before you take possession of the vehicles. In our case, we did that, but it was a little bit looser of a process when I was dealing with the insurance company the broker in South Dakota, because it isn't required as part of the registration process. So it was very easy as well.
Well, thanks, Mark, for sharing your experiences. Appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks, Greg, for your help.